Oh, I see what happened here. You took laziness and just repackaged it into something cool and trendy. What, you thought you invented something new? Being a loser to music on TikTok is not the flex you think that it is. Newsflash toots, you're not the first person to feel overwhelmed by their work or that their compensation is not commensurate to their actual assigned tasks. What you are, however, is demented enough to believe that you are the originator of said feeling. Being the most dangerous commentary show on Beyonce's internet comes with its own set of challenges. YouTube time and time again refuses to promote our videos because we have very controversial takes on extremely sensitive subjects. So chances are, if you stumbled on this clip by accident, you'll never get to see our content again unless you hit that subscribe button. It only takes 1 second. But either way, we're glad you're here. And now, back to the clip. So, I recently came across a new trend on TikTok called quiet quitting. The Washington Post describes it as mainly Gen Z and Millennials opting out of hustle culture by doing the bare minimum necessary for them to remain employed. It can manifest as total apathy towards work or staying completely silent during meetings, for example, in avoidance of providing input amongst many other forms. This, apparently, is a result of extreme burnout. Extreme employee burnout. And where else to litigate this but on TikTok? Especially due to the fact that employees are just too tired to do their jobs, but not tired enough to make TikToks complaining about how tiresome their jobs are. Oh, Jesse, the exhausted receipts.
Everybody's talking about quiet quitting and how it's the new negative talent crisis. I think it's a good thing. The youngest generations at work are rejecting the idea of hustle culture or framing your entire life around some dream job. They're rejecting putting their mental health below their performance goals. With quiet quitting, you're doing what you're paid for and not more. And it's about setting boundaries around what you're willing to do. If the inflation rate is 8.5% and you get a 1% raise, what do employers expect? I see this as a healthy evolution that can actually equalize the employee-employer relationship more. Do you think quiet quitting is a good thing? Let me know.
Okay, let's see. Goal for today. 500 calls. We're doing 50. We're doing 50. It's Maple Muffin Monday, everyone. Let's go to the break room. Did you watch last week's episode of The Bachelorette? Yeah, good drama, right? Hey, Veronica, you have till end of day to finish all this extra work. Respectfully, Susan, it's 2022. We're acting our wage, so don't give me extra work. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I see what happened here. You took laziness and just repackaged it into something cool and trendy. What, you thought you invented something new? Being a loser to music on TikTok is not the flex you think that it is. Newsflash toots, you're not the first person to feel overwhelmed by their work or that their compensation is not commensurate to their actual assigned tasks. What you are, however, is demented enough to believe that you are the originator of said feelings. That somehow before you, no one else had ever felt that way about their job. Because things were so much easier back then. As eloquently put by Brandon with the good hair in this insightful take. Jesse, the brilliant receipts.
I just got off work and I saw a video of an older gentleman talking about quiet quitting and how like our generation is just lazy and we don't want to work for anything, and how we're never going to be able to go get the brand new house or the new car because we're not putting in the extra work. Most of the videos and most of the takes that I've seen are very polarizing. It's one, just the older generation saying that the youth is lazy and whatever, and the younger generation saying that like you don't see the hard work that we're putting in. I think there's validity in both, and I think what older generations are having a really hard time conceptualizing is that we're fucked. I work a minimum wage tips job position, and if I were to ask any of my coworkers that are around my age when they're gonna buy their first home, they're going to laugh at me. They're gonna laugh because they don't know if they're gonna be able to pay rent next month. One of the main talking points that my generation uses is, well, it was a lot cheaper to buy a house back in the day and you could work a minimum wage job and put in the extra hours and actually buy a home. I think that's the biggest point that's going over a lot of people's heads that are complaining about quiet quitting and that this generation doesn't want to work. The reality is many of us that are in my age or a little older, or a little younger, are working jobs that do not care about us as people. And I'm going to say that again because I think that's a very, very important distinction that a lot of people are forgetting. I am not going to fucking kill myself over a job that doesn't care about me as a human being. I am not going to put in a 60-hour work week and pull myself up by my bootstraps for a job that does not care about me as a person. Oh, you're being sensitive. Oh, you just want your feelings. No, I'm saying the bare minimum is that if I'm sick or if I have a family emergency, that job's not going to be like, oh, it's your responsibility to find someone to replace you. So many people my age are coming to the realization that we're just fucked. The idea and the notion that we're just able to buy a home in this climate just by putting in some extra hours is outrageous and honestly just so ignorant. 50 years ago, yeah, you could work at fucking McDonald's and put a down payment on a house in your mid-20s. In today's date, that is not possible. Now, let me rephrase that. It is possible. If I work an 80-hour work week, don't go out ever, don't do anything I enjoy, don't take a day off for mental health, for physical health, for whatever, eat ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a couple years, and then maybe I could get approved for a loan, pay off this loan on top of the crippling student loans many of us are in, and then after a couple years of literally killing myself, I can own a home. And you can't just say, oh, people are lazy for not wanting to do that. I'm not even taking into consideration, I don't know if we're going to have a sustainable world in 50 years. I'm asking a genuine question here. Why, as a 22-year-old individual, would I do all of this work to save up for a home in some place that I probably don't want to live in, because chances are I can't afford to live where I want to live, purchase that home, and then not even know if we are going to have a sustainable world to live in 50 years from now? Why would I want to raise kids in a world where I don't know if they're going to have clean air to breathe in 50 years? It all comes back down to you had the privilege of growing up in a world where there was hope and opportunity, and we don't.
Okay. Let's unpack a few of the things that young man masquerading as a bull just laid in our lap. Starting with the whole notion that somehow people had it much easier back then. That you could work a minimum wage factory job, for example, and be able to save and buy a home in the 50s as opposed to today. Yes, that is indeed true. But the reason why a basic factory worker's wages have now risen alongside the cost of living is because the value of that labor has been spiraling downward as society makes more and more technological advances. A job that used to take 100 men now takes 2.5 robotic arms. You know who gets paid really well, though? Way more than enough to save up for a home? The people engineering and assembling those robotic arms. And if they don't adapt either as technology advances, they will eventually find themselves in your situation. Being a coach driver in 1805 was a lucrative and honorable profession until the combustion engine came around, rendering the entire sector obsolete. That is the nature of life. Constant motion. Refusing to adapt to the demands of a forever evolving marketplace comes at a price. And this is not just on an individual level either. You can also see it on the corporate front as well. Sony was the master and commander of everything portable music with their Walkman. They, however, failed to ride the MP3 wave. And now a company that was synonymous with technological innovation is now nothing more than a shell of its former self, replaced by a younger, more hip Apple that knew how to reinvent itself over and over again in order to maintain its newly acquired market dominance. Which brings me to another point that he made, which is the fact that everyone his age took out massive student loans under the guise that they were promised a job after graduation. This is yet another example of an outdated method being used to deal with modern day problems. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but the world reached its needed quota of gender study grads right around the end of Clinton's first term. Everybody else with a $100,000 shiny piece of paper learned how to code or go teach English in China. And finally, this young man says that he's not going to go above and beyond for a job that doesn't care about him, as though he fails to find a distinction between his job and his prayer circle. Care about you? When have jobs ever cared about anyone for the sake of just being someone? You are only as valuable as your production. The more indispensable you become at your job, the more cared for you are. You, sir, on the other hand, are an easily replaceable cog in a very vast machine. You work a minimum wage tip job, a job in which hella enthusiastic robots at Chili's happen to be outperforming you in by a country mile as we speak. And instead of pivoting and finding new ways of making yourself more useful, you decide to do even less. You're doomed. Because quiet quitting is not a sustainable game plan. Eventually, your employer finds out and they quiet fire you. And in no time, you are replaced by someone hungrier and more enthusiastic. So now what? You going to quiet quit your bills? Or you are? Jesse, the enlightened receipts.
Dude, did you see what's happening on September 1st? No, what's happening?
We're going on strike. The strike starts September 1st until, honestly, further notice. The reason this will work is because not everyone can get evicted, and that's the biggest fear I've seen online about the September 1st strike is that people are in fear of losing their homes or losing, what they're renting. You won't be able to lose everything if we're overwhelming the courts. That's how this will work. They have to file with the court to evict. If everyone in one complex doesn't pay rent, they're really going to file court on every single person. The court is going to be like, what is happening? What is going on? There will be people with pushback that are defending capitalism, that are defending this system, and they're going to say stupid shit like, they'll replace you. If you get evicted, they'll just put other tenants in there. They'll replace you at your job. I promise you, if it's this overwhelming, if we're this much in solidarity with each other, there will be nothing for them to do. There will be nothing for them to push back or do. We've all had enough being a slave to this system. I know you have. I can feel the energy. I know that people want this. I know that people do not want to work in a system that continuously brings us down. Always. We have the power on September 1st going forward to literally end all of this, to end it. If you fucking hate what you're doing, if you hate your life, if you're miserable, if you feel like you have no purpose, if you feel like you're in a rat race, you are, and you can stop it. You can literally join all of the people that want freedom, real freedom. This is not freedom. It's a sham. It's a lie. It always has been. We've been bamboozled, and your dumb parents and grandparents have fallen into this trap, and they've put us in this trap. We can end it September 1st. Join us, please. This means we are not paying rent. We are not paying any bills. We are not paying student loan payments. We are not giving anything back to any institution that has kept us enslaved and kept us fucking fighting for our lives. We end it all September 1st. Join us, please. Tell everyone you know. Make a fear of missing out type of moment. Make people feel like they are missing out. Make this trendy. Make it popular. We are so good with social media, millennials and Gen Z. We're so good at it. Let's make this popular. If you can make a stupid dance move popular, you can make people striking on September 1st popular. Let's fucking do this.
What you, my good friend, are advocating for is a crime called grand larceny, defined as the theft of personal property having a value above the legally specified amount. Not to mention the potential of a RICO charge for getting other people to participate in your little criminal enterprise. Needless to say, Fannie Willis has entered the chat. That apartment you are sitting in belongs to somebody. The heat and electricity in it is brought to you through intensive labor of hundreds of people. What makes you believe that you can just decide to claim ownership of it as you please? But then again, this is the same generation that was raised on participation trophies and gold stars for everyone. Commandeering another's property in the name of a revolution? That's just child's play. Look, no one is saying that you should remain in a job you hate year after year. If you feel unfulfilled and underpaid, then quit. Go find something more rewarding where your skills are valued and remunerated accordingly. Let someone with enthusiasm for the position you don't want take it over. Choosing a life of professional laziness does come at a price. And that price is a mediocre life that will be very quickly forgotten the moment you leave this earth. Quiet quitting is not only the coward's way out, but it is also absolutely preposterous.